Hello and welcome to The Film Angle. I'm
And
Alex,
I'm Kris.
and this is our new podcast where we're going to talk about all things film.
Well, try to sound not as unarticulate as we can.
Exactly. I mean, we've had the idea of starting a podcast for a while, um, and I think that the pandemic really showed us that actually we we like talking about films and we want to keep in touch with each other because we're not actually in the same room.
Yeah, and me and Alex, I think you'll agree, Alex, that we are notoriously terrible at keeping in touch. So this was a great incentive to keep us talking about movies and get back together. And I think the pandemic really solidified that for us too.
Yeah, for sure.
But probably a little background on the two of us. Alex and I met, I think, back in 2016, was it?
Was it? Was it then? Do you know? I honestly don't remember the year. It feels like a long time, not in a
Yeah.
horrible way, in like a
No,
good
no,
way,
no, no,
like
no.
like I've known you a long time.
Well, thank you, Alex. I mean, it makes me feel really good.
Yeah. Okay.
Good to think. Good to know you're always thinking about me. I actually recorded it. We met actually 5,423 days ago and 63 minutes.
Oh my god, you're right. I've got it on my phone as well.
You didn't know, but I was watching you.
There you go. There you go. Are you looking over my shoulder?
Yeah, but we were both. I just moved over to England from Northern Ireland because my girlfriend lives over here, and I started working in Toys R Us. And I think I ostentatiously just approached you one day as like, somebody here told me that you like movies.
yeah.
Let's
That
be
was
friends.
honestly it. That really was it. And I'm pretty sure somebody said to me like that new guy Chris. He likes movies. You should
Yeah.
go talk to him.
Yeah, it's actually really hard to
So
find people in like day to day life who actually like movies. I've come to find.
yeah, for sure. Or like talking about them in the way I
Yes,
think we do,
yes.
which is getting a little geeky sometimes about it. Um, but
Mm.
I mean, our love of films, mine. Do you know? I don't actually know where mine stems from. I think when I was younger, I had a soft toy, a small seal called Otto. And I used to make films with him, and from there I was like, oh yeah, I want to be a filmmaker. I ended up there was a few years between this. I ended up going to university and studying film as a degree, and that was kind of
I'm sorry. Can we
y-
go? Can we go back to this auto? I've never heard of this auto thing. So what was it like? What was it? Stuffed animal or was it like an action figure or
yeah,
something?
yeah. He was like a cuddly toy. As a like a soft cuddly toy. It's like I don't know about 6 inches long, and he was grey.
And why the fascination of auto? Like, was that the only toy you got as a kid? Were you depraved?
Oh no, I had loads, but he was my main man. He was my leading man. Actually, I had a whole ensemble. They were called Otto and Friends, and yeah, we used to make films together.
There's an auto universe.
Oh man, oh man. Do you know what? Next time you're around the house, okay? Next time you're around the house, I'm gonna have to show you uh, books upon books of stories that I wrote about Otto and Friends with pictures. Um,
You have a shrine to your own childhood works.
I mean, it's a folder, but yeah,
It's a
if you
ring
call it.
binder, laminated.
It's a folder, okay? It's a folder, and you can have a look. And look, no shame, all right? No
Okay,
shame.
okay, okay.
It took me to university. I studied a film degree. I left university, worked in Toys R Us, and yeah, the film degree didn't get me into the film industry. It's a difficult industry to get into, but probably partly
Also,
my own doing as well. But
also to contextualize it for people listening, this university you went to, it was Falmouth, right? Which is right at the ends of the earth of Cornwall, which is the worst part of England to be if you ever want to be involved in the film industry, right?
look, all right, it's an arts university and it's
Oh yeah.
actually very well known.
Oh no, no,
Okay,
I'm not saying that, but I mean on a geographical point of view, it's a disadvantage, right?
yeah, I mean, filmmaking's in London at the end of the day. In the
Mhm.
UK, you can't get away from that, and London is at this point unaffordable. But
Yes.
there you go. I mean, but that being said, Mark Jenkin, the director of Bait, proved us all wrong recently
Yes.
by having a very well received film
Yes, a movie I haven't
come
seen.
from Falmouth. Have you not seen it?
No, I've heard it's really good.
So that's a future episode right there. Write it
Okay.
down.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
as you can tell, we don't fully know what we're doing, but we are. But that's the part of the fun of this podcast is we are going to try evolve it as we go, and hopefully anybody listening can help us out, give some feedback, and let us know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody listening, this is actually the second time we've only ever spoke on microphone. We only bought our microphone, our equipment about 2 weeks ago, so we're still ironing things out, getting into the rhythm. It'll probably take a few episodes and a few recordings.
Yeah, I mean it's been on our head for so long, hasn't it? Like
Hmm.
it's just it's more of a uh,
To the point where I thought like it was just going to fizzle.
well, I used to be against it. I wanted to start a podcast, and I know you did way before the pandemic, and I was like, we have no niche. We have no niche. Um, there's so many film podcasts, and yeah,
Hmm.
do you know what? There are so many film podcasts. So we'll see how we favor.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, like we said previously, like let's just use it as a tool to keep in touch, and we'll see how we can use it in the future. I mean, my university degree didn't get me into film, but I have ended up in the digital marketing route. Maybe I can put some of those skills to the test.
Which you
Um,
have already done. Alex is already. I can speak for you, Alex. You've already done a cover for us, which absolutely looks. I think it looks great. We had a couple of samples before, and I was like, but this one was the real like light bulb moment. Where I was like, yes, this is good. This is. I'm getting excited about this now.
yeah, it's a collaborative process. I mean, to show you how much we are just going with it and hoping for the best, we probably like confirm the name of the podcast about an hour before this recording. So you
Yes,
know,
yes. So
we had lists upon lists of names ready to go. Our better halves were chiming in. We were really trying to we were throwing
confusing
everything at the
matters
wall.
even more. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's where we are. Chris,
Hmm.
where did your love of film come from?
Well, I think we've spoken about this before, but it always came from my dad. Um, my dad was always someone I really idolized growing up, and he would probably every time he was home, he'd always I don't know he'd manage to fit in two movies during the day. If it was a day where like I had no friends going outside, I was like a 10-year-old kid. Everybody was out like I don't know Sunday school or going to the flipping leisure center to do some swimming. I'd be at home watching a movie with dad. He put on a western, and he managed to engage me and make it exciting for me where I was like, yes, I get this. Which it just kind of led snowball effect. It led to more things, probably showing me movies I should be seeing as a kid. I think I was like 10 when I first saw Alien, and I was just wide eyed and like, what the hell? This thing is blowing my mind.
Uh,
Um, so yeah, and I was like, well, this guy made this thing. Well, what else did he make? And it just keeps going and going and going. I don't think it's anything specific. I think it's just inherently built into you, and it was certainly built in to me from a really young age. I've always loved movies.
that's great. That's great. Yeah, no, yeah, it's lovely. The one thing I didn't hear though was you don't have a
I
film
don't have
degree.
a film degree. Um,
You don't have a film degree, so your opinions are invalid compared to mine, right? So any opinion you have that differs to mine automatically wrong because
ex-
I have the film degree, and I mean I've got to use it for something, Chris. Let me have it. I pull rank on every
I mean,
opinion.
you
That's
spent
just
what?
that's
You
just how
spent
it's
like
going to
three
be.
years of your life, so that you could do something not related to what you want to do. Sorry. I don't want to like throw shots already. I mean, this is only the pilot episode, and I don't want us falling out already. I don't want to be a Beatles Simon Garfunkel moment here. It's the way it goes sometimes. This is my outlet for it now. Watching movies, talking to
Do-
you about it, enjoying Letterboxd, and yeah,
Well, do you know what? Yeah, I can't say I'm overly happy with the amount of money I'm in debt to the government.
it is nice to be
Uh,
debt
for
free. I don't owe any money
for
to
you
anybody.
know there is that and I'm in debt for studying what is now my hobby. Anyway, this is getting depressing. Shall we talk about some films?
I think that is a pretty rough segue into what the show is about. We should probably talk about some movies.
Yeah, let's talk about some films. That's what we're all
Mm-hmm.
here for. The name of the podcast should give it away that we're going to be talking about films. We're gonna keep it pretty loose for this first episode, but I think going forward we're gonna maybe wrestle it down a bit
Yeah.
more. Maybe go on deep dives on a couple of films. Maybe have a few topics. Maybe challenge each other to watch some films that we haven't seen
Yes.
before and discuss them. But I guess for anybody listening, we wanted to maybe give you an idea today of the kind of stuff we are watching, and what we think about it, and just chit chat generally about a few films that we've recently seen, just to give you guys an idea of how we might talk about film and just what we've been watching. So we use Letterboxd,
Mm-hmm.
the greatest website of all time for film lovers, I think.
The greatest website of all time used to be IMDb for it, for me. But I'm on Letterboxd like 10 times a day. No, I'm addicted to it. It's like the first thing I open whenever I open my phone.
It's terrible. Like
And it's because it's such a nice, right? No, this isn't a marketing spiel for Letterboxd, but it's just such a nice looking
but
app.
it could be. Letterbox. If you want to sponsor us, I know you have your own podcast, but if you want to sponsor us, we'd happily take it because we do love
but
it.
we've only got pro accounts. We're not patrons. I don't think that would fly too well.
Yeah, it's true. Love those stats. You pay for the pro, you
What
get
does
the stats.
What does
you get to
Patreon
see.
get you? Do you just get that theme on the top of your review?
Yeah, pretty much an
Does
image.
look
I
good
think
though.
on your profile and just feeling good that you're supporting one of the best
Yeah, that's
websites
true.
on the internet. A place where you can log your films, rate them, review them, and share them with your friends. You can see what your other friends are
Yeah,
doing, and
and be jealous
yeah,
about what
it's
half
great.
of the American critics are watching that you won't get to watch for about 6 months.
Yep, very true, very true. Or just stalking Chris's page and seeing him rate something that you loved pretty low and getting upset about it and calling him up and being like, "What the hell,
This is
man?"
the man who gave Rio Bravo, I'm pretty sure, a 3. One of the greatest Hard Hawks, one of the greatest golden age filmmakers of all time, and you give it a 3? A movie that's essentially perfect?
Look, first of all, 3's not a bad rating, and
Were you in a
2
bad mood, Alex? Were you a bit upset?
always.
No, it's nothing personal because most of the recommendations I've given you in the past, you've been pretty good on. You've been pretty good on, but that one just did not work for you.
Yeah, and you know what? It really does. Sometimes these days, it really does depend on how you watch it, when you watch it, and increasingly how tired you are when you
Hmm.
watch it.
Absolutely. I mean, the other
I
night I had the pleasure of watching Drive My Car, which is a daunting 3 hour movie. I watched it after work. I was pretty tired. I could recognize what I was watching would be on in a different night would be like eye opening for me. It's
yeah
obviously a near masterpiece for me, but yeah, on that night I was pretty tired and I was struggling. I was struggling.
yeah yeah, and you also know, like, I know everybody's talking about it right now, but the cinema does help. The cinema cuts off any distractions.
Absolutely.
You're in the dark. You sometimes need a wee, and that sucks. But if you don't,
I no
if your bladder's
no.
free, then you're all
You're
good.
doing it wrong. You're
Um,
doing it wrong. Then you got to go as soon as before the movie starts. You got to get that pee in there before.
I'm a little bit older than you, Chris.
What, like
I that
3 years?
that used to be the case. That used to be the case, but
All right.
increasingly becoming more and more
Well, I'll tell
difficult.
you in 3 years
Um,
if you were talking bullshit or not.
Fair enough. Well, there are some films which I've watched recently which would have been great to see in the
Yes.
cinema. Um,
Are you talking
but
about?
there you go.
Are you talking about Clint Eastwood's film?
Which one?
The what was the last movie? Not the Mule. The one afterwards. I watched it last year.
Oh, Cry
Yeah,
Macho.
Cry Macho.
I didn't
No,
actually
that
see
movie
it. I
basically it
just
looks like a TV movie. It looks like it came out of Channel 5. So I feel sorry for anyone who went to the cinema to see it.
so not a recommend.
I liked it.
Oh, fair enough.
It's a movie.
It did not sound like you
It's
liked
a
it then.
movie where we're supposed to believe that a 40 something femme fatale Mexican matriarch hitting on a 90 something elderly Clint Eastwood is a plausibility.
Yeah, well, even the greatest directors do this. Do you remember when John Favreau in Chef, he wrote, directed
I
it?
haven't seen
Was
Chef.
th- have you
No,
not
I've heard.
seen Chef?
I really want. It's one of those movies that's like always in the back of my mind, but I've heard good things. People like it,
Well, yeah, John Favreau, he's not a bad guy and he's full of
of course.
personality, but he did write himself dating Scarlett Johansson, and his ex-wife was Sofia Vergara. So
He was also infatuated after Iron Man 2 or something like that.
yeah, he was just like, these are the people that are my relationships, past and present. But you know, no shame, because John Favreau is obviously a pretty good director. But yeah, no, I mean, I know you love food, don't you, Chris? I know this. You're a big fan of food, and I love cooking food, and I'm pretty sure you do too. Chef is a great food film.
Yes, and people reference Chef a lot, even to this day. I see posts relating to that movie all the time. So yeah, it's something I got to catch up on because like you, I'm a food lover. Don't do as much cooking as you. I actually, my girlfriend Lauren is a bit more proactive in that part, but I do love eating food.
Oh, fair enough, fair enough. Have you ever watched the YouTube chef show Binging with Babish?
No, if it's not a gaming show or film show, I
No.
probably haven't seen it.
Ah, fair enough. I was gonna say, like, he ended up being on the Chef TV show, which was more of a docu series,
Yes.
spinning off from Chef. But he has a tattoo from the Chef film of like basically, I think it's like a pasta fork. Uh, but yeah, no, it's
Did I ever
yeah,
tell you about the
it's
time I went
I've gone off on a
Did
tangent.
I ever tell you about the time I went to Italy? And the first meal I had there, I was at Florence, and we were eating outside the Duomo, the big cathedral there. And I was having my pasta, and some American, he was at another table across the way, and he looked over at me. I was struggling with this pasta, man. It was like literally about 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. I was like, I need a flipping knife to eat this. And then yeah, which I didn't know was a no no, right? And he looked across the way, and I heard him saying to his wife, yeah, in the most American accent you could think of, it's like, look over there, look at his left hand. And, and I just got like I got fork shamed for using the knife and
No
fork.
way.
I felt like I was the most
No
embarrassed
way.
I ever felt in my life, and I was like, I didn't know. It's my first day in Italy. I didn't know. I basically insulted a whole nation in the space of 24 hours.
Dude, and it wasn't even the locals that shamed you. That is
Yeah, yeah, fat American tourist.
oof. All right, we're getting cancelled for that.
It's a fact.
He
His
was fat.
cholesterol was really high. So
um,
yeah,
we've
there's
gone off. We've gone off on a tangent. Let
yeah.
you bring it
Okay.
back.
So yeah, you'll have to
Yeah,
forgive us for the lack of structure. We are still figuring this thing out. We will, as we progress, I'm sure we will find a flow and a way to structure the show in the way that works for us and is probably a bit easier for you guys to listen to as well. Um, I'm just looking at my letterbox page at the minute, and I'm trying to relate what I've watched in the last sort of month to what you've watched. I've kind of been a little bit more active this year than you have.
I'm a working boy. What can I say?
Excuse me, I'm working too. We both have Monday to Fridays, 9 to 5 sort of routines. No excuse. You
Fair
do have
enough.
like a
Did you
dog,
watch The Lost Daughter?
The Lost Daughter. Yeah, a movie I really, really liked, and probably 80% of Netflix's audience thought, "What the hell is this shit?"
Uh, very true. Very true. I also really like. So this isn't going to create the most dynamic of
Okay, I'm
conversations,
glad to hear.
but um, Olivia Colman, Jessie Buckley. I thought they're both incredible in
That's
it.
no surprise to anybody.
I think they both nominated for an Oscar for this film. Is
I
that
think Jessie
correct?
Buckley has got a Best Supporting nod as well. Yeah,
Did Olivia Colman not get a Best Actress,
yeah,
or
yeah,
is
yeah.
she not?
I think she's probably probably the favorite at the minute.
Yeah, they were both amazing in this film. Um, we should probably state outright as well, like we are just going to talk about
Yeah,
these
of
films,
course.
um, spoilers and all. So if you hear a film name that you don't want any story details at all going into, then just skip 30 seconds ahead. We're not going to spend long,
Yes.
but yeah, The Lost Daughter, very tense, very interesting. Feels like it's always going to turn into something darker than it ever does. But this kind of impending sense of doom and grief
Hmm.
really drives the film along. And yeah, no, it's a really interesting watch. Um,
I think it also really helps that obviously this is the debut for Maggie Gyllenhaal, which is a beloved actress. I mean, I'm a really big fan of hers. I don't know about you, Alex, but I think it's those 20 something years of her being on screen, really being able to focus on what's happening on set, being able to watch the process of filmmaking, and she seems to have really soak that in. And it's a really strong directorial. Like, you do feel like the camera is really essential to how this movie works. The claustrophobia of everything that's going on. Yeah, the I think that's probably why people didn't really connect with this movie. I mean, Olivia Colman's character can be a little bit suffocating. She is undoubtedly overly humanized in a way we don't
yeah,
usually
very,
yes, in a way we don't usually see.
very unlikable.
Yeah, exactly. We don't see that for women characters quite a lot in movies. We see it for men, but I think a lot of mass audiences have really struggled with the fact that she is not a really likable protagonist.
No, it goes very real in terms of motherhood. Obviously, this isn't, not everybody struggles with motherhood, but it's one of those things you're not taught it. So in everybody assumes everybody's got like this maternal instinct, and it doesn't come as instinctually as it might do to everyone, you know. And I think this film really shines a light on that and says like, not every mother is a perfect
Hmm.
mother in the eyes of society. And Olivia Colman, her character just obviously struggled mentally with the
Hmm.
raising her children and being there for them whilst also being her own person. And the film never shames her for that. She might shame herself, but that's part of the film. Um,
And yeah, and
but you're not supposed to hate any of the characters on the screen.
yeah, and I think a lot of people struggle with the provocation that character brings, but I think kind of the success of the movie is actually to do with how well Coleman taps in to how whiplashy that emotion is. I mean, there's a point in the movie towards the end where it's quite a surprising moment where Dakota Johnson's character says, "Okay, wow, you left your kids for 2 years. I mean, how did that feel?" And Coleman's response isn't what you originally think it's going to be. Instead, she says,
Hmm.
"It was great. It was fantastic,"
Yeah.
which she says with a degree of regret, but it is a really human moment, and it's really refreshing to kind of see that in a movie where you're meeting with somebody who is inherently apathetic but wants to be empathetic.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
I thought it was a great movie. Really worked for me. I hope Coleman does well.
Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Some of the best performances this year. Um, it's a little slow, but if you just let
Yeah,
yourself,
be in the right mood to watch. You got
uh,
to get your movie watching hat on. Yeah.
yeah, warm yourself into it and just enjoy it as like a mood piece, as a
Hmm.
character piece. Really, really good. Onto something maybe a little
Yeah, sure.
happier. Um, did you watch Disney's latest animation, Encanto?
Yes, I was probably one of the few people in the UK who actually went to see it in cinemas. Um, yeah, we went to it and nobody was in the screen. It was just me and Lauren.
I guess I guess we all knew that it was coming on Disney Plus in like the window between the cinema and Disney Plus
Ye-
was
ye- yes, but
there's like almost
I think
none.
the marketing was so light. I don't know why they were so light in this movie. The marketing. I mean, um, it's Manuel Miranda. I mean, he's the guy. The guy is such a big name now. I don't know why. The marketing only seemed to really occur about a week before the movie came out for me. Um, yeah, it was strange, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. People might be fatigued with Miranda a little bit. I mean, like, what's the guy's made like 3 or 4 musicals in the last year that came on screen.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Lauren, I have to say, is the biggest Lin Manuel fan ever. She like listens to Hamilton and In the Heights every single day. So yeah,
Oh wow.
I've had my fill of him. So yeah, I'm looking forward to 2022 that's a little bit lighter on him.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, no, I really like Lin Manuel Miranda. I haven't seen all his stuff
Hmm.
this year, but yeah, he's obviously a man at the peak of his career at the moment. Directorial debut,
Yeah,
writing new music for Disney. Yeah, Encanto, I thought was excellent. He was very good musical. I think potentially the marketing was lighter on it because it isn't as um it's not as like sweeping and epic a story as like a Frozen or
well,
Moana. It's
yeah,
set in like a small town,
it's set
and
in a
it's about
house. I mean, 90% of the movie
yeah,
never leaves the house.
yeah. It's a large family, their issues, and it's all encompassed. All the magic that happens around it. They've all got these different powers, and it's all to do with their kind of their like ancestral
Mm,
trauma, their current feelings, their current mental state, and how that all kind of implodes on
yeah,
itself. But yeah, you're right. There's no true antagonist. It's more of just a small family piece, which is I think it was very different. It was very unique for Disney.
right. First debate. First debate. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that it's refreshing. I think we are getting to a period now before when Disney animation studios were starting, when you had Tangled, there was like a sense, oh right, okay, we're going in a different direction now. But I feel ever since sort of Frozen and certainly Moana, we are getting into a pattern now with the stories. Um, Certainly with the empowering female, the grandmother who's the matriarch tells our main character what's kind of the world and how it's set out. The villain that's not really a villain, has been kind of true of the last 3 sort of movies. Um,
That's very true.
I
That's very
think we
true.
need to kind of get out of the rhythm a little bit. I don't know how much more I can take. Every so often, Disney does this where they get something new, but then they stick to it for 10 years. Happened at the end of the '90s, at the end of the Renaissance. I feel like it's happening again. So I think they kind of need to shift it.
That's you do know what? That is very fair, and those were observations that I hadn't really put two and two together. I think they presented it in a way which made me feel like maybe it was more refreshing than it actually
Yeah,
was.
I'll give you that.
Um,
And
but I had a lot of
yeah,
fun with it. Disney Animation's not really putting a foot wrong at the
no,
moment.
no, I think they've got
Uh,
a better track record at the minute than Pixar.
yeah, they've not really put a foot wrong since they released
Hmm.
Tangled. It's all been pretty good from there.
Did you
Um,
watch Luca?
any other?
Did you watch Luca?
Yeah, yeah, I watched Luca. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
Luca.
I kind of like
Go on, go
I
on.
like the fact that they were sort of brave enough to make it kind of small. It was kind of just a small, cute little story. Kind of felt like a Ghibli movie in a way.
Yeah, yeah. Would you say Disney Animation did the same thing with Encanto, or
No, Encanto definitely had more. I think whenever you're making a musical, you're inherently the scope of a musical always opens up, and it's always going to be a bigger movie whenever you have all those song elements, and that movie is very vibrant.
yeah, that's fair. And I kind of see where you're coming from there. Luca is obviously not a musical, and is a smaller story
Smaller
that
movie, but
Pixar clearly
I
wanted to
really liked
tell.
it.
Yeah, really sweet. And do you know what if I was to rank them, I'd probably put Luca ahead of Encanto overall.
Raya being the
What other
disappointment of the
films
year
you've
for
been
me.
watching? Which one,
Raya
sorry?
and the Last Dragon. It just kind of fell flat for me a little bit.
Yeah, do you know what? I am with you. I again didn't hate it. A lot of these guys aren't really making anything that you can dislike.
That's the thing.
But yeah, Raya and the Last Dragon, not. I think maybe it's because it wasn't what I expected it to
Hmm.
be. Um, which probably was more like Moana or
Do you
Frozen.
think it needed musical
Um,
numbers?
I think it was more story focused than character
Hmm.
focused, which has been the stronger element of the recent Disney films. Is they've all been very character focused,
Yes.
and Raya, she was second to the story. It threw you into the film, and it said, "You need to get this, to get
Hmm.
this, to
Hmm.
get this, to stop
If you
this."
were to if you were to tell me, ask me, um, he is Ray as a character, 6 months after watching that movie, I can't tell you.
What else you been watching, Chris?
Well, I managed to catch up. The first movie I watched in the new year. I'm a really big Wes Anderson fan, and I managed to catch up with the expectedly fantastic French Dispatch.
Oh, okay. Tell me about it because I haven't seen it yet. But I did see that it is coming to Disney
So,
Plus of all
so the
places.
French Dispatch is basically it's an anthology movie. So it's based on I think three separate stories within this magazine or this newspaper that's called the French Dispatch, which is a local newspaper that's run by Bill Murray, and it focuses on three stories that are within the newspaper. One that's headed by Francis McDormand, one by Jeffrey Wright, and one that's got Benicio del Toro as the main character. And it's just this really cool little movie that really is Wes Anderson at his most Wes Anderson. I mean, if you think Grand Budapest Hotel was him on a cocaine Anderson level, well, French Dispatch is even more so. Um, yeah, a lot of people kind of stuck their noses up on this one. People saying like, "Oh, like write another one. We know what he does," but it's. I think that's really unfair to say that about somebody who really invented a genre for themselves. I mean, can you really
Mm.
can you blame him for he perfected it on the first go? He's sticking to what he knows. I mean, I think that's a virtue as opposed to a crutch.
Yeah, he's really just honed in on his quirks, hasn't he?
Hmm.
Really, and I am very excited to see the French Dispatch. I'm kind of sad that I didn't get around to watching it when it came out in the cinemas. But yeah, maybe we should dive deeper into that one.
Yeah, there's lots to enjoy in that one. I'm looking forward to watching it a second time, so
Yeah,
I'm happy to catch up on that one.
excellent.
What about you, Alex? What did you start your new year off with?
Well, I set my new year off with the Lost Daughter, so we've already spoken about that one. But another film that I really got on with was Boiling Point.
Yes.
Very new to this year with Stephen Graham. A one-shot take, or so it seems, one-shot take of a kitchen in kind of like a high-end restaurant, and our main character is seemingly having a few outside issues with wife and child, or ex-wife and child, and as the name suggests, it all comes to a bit of a boiling point in the film.
Hmm.
The restaurant's going through some things, and it's not just about Stephen Graham's character. It's all the characters that surround him in this kitchen get a chance to shine. And do you know what? I really enjoyed it. It actually reminded me it's a very good film about showing some of the kind of uh, obnoxiousness that comes with working in an environment where you have to deal
Hmm.
with customers.
The entitlement. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of reminded me of our time at Toys R Us and anywhere else where in a high stress environment. Maybe a few of my jobs post Toys R Us, where some of the
Yeah.
kind of stress from management trickles down to the bottom, which is never a good thing.
I,
But yeah, it's great. You kind of forget that it's all one take after a while. It's just really really well done.
I think the true part of the movie is really no matter who you are going into this movie, no matter what your background, everybody has experienced a situation or an evening or a week or I don't know, their whole entire working life as being like this moment in this film where it's just absolutely it's absolutely suffocating. I mean, I've been there. It was almost like reliving trauma, but in a healthy way, where I got to like sit back and enjoy the fact that I wasn't participating in it.
For sure, it was like, yeah, yeah, this feels right. This is what it's like sometimes.
That's a thing.
I don't think either of us have worked in a restaurant, but you kind of the kind of vibe that it gives
Yeah,
off
like
reminds you of other
I don't watch it
places.
anymore, but I used to be quite a big fan whenever my parents used to watch MasterChef UK. I used to watch that with my mom and my dad, and I just always thought to myself, why would you put yourself in this situation? Why do people thrive off this? It almost seems like it's self-injuring. It's like self-hating. It's just like it's such a toxic environment. But it's also sort of just really awe-inspiring, like, just to see people function in a way that kind of just is so separate from myself, and, it's
Yeah,
quite inspiring, and the movie, even the filmmaking process emulates that in a way, and the way that
yeah,
it's shot in
yeah,
one take, follows everything, it's chaotic like the movie, and in a way, it couldn't have been shot any other way, it had to be done like this to really capture what it is like moment to moment. If you had cuts, it
yeah,
would have given you too much time to breathe and kind of go like, oh, separate yourself. But you were caught up in the moment, and the movie really worked on that level for me.
yeah. It was really good.
Um, a movie I feel that you liked, but we are slightly different on, and we've got to talk about it. It's The Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah. Okay. The Matrix Resurrections is a weird one because I left the cinema not really knowing how I feel.
Hmm.
And I should definitely check it out, though, that I don't hate it, because I think a film that makes you feel conflicted is definitely not something that's bad. Uh, but I can't find enough to make me love it either. It's a weird one. There was a lot of good stuff going on, but also a lot of stuff that just kind of baffled me. Not in like I didn't understand it kind of way,
Hmm. Hmm.
but just in like, I think you're trying to do too much. Do we really need to do this? And are you criticizing the very thing you are also emulating?
Well,
Uh,
that last point is a guarantee. I mean, that is inherently built into the movie. Um, yeah, it depends on how much baggage you bring to the Matrix. I know the first Matrix movie very well. I mean, I probably watched it when I was like 8 or 9, and then subsequently watched it every year since then. Two and three, I've only ever seen once, so I recently revisited them both, and they both really worked for me. I mean, like a lot of people really are down on Resurrections, but I had so much. No, not Resurrections. Sorry, should I say Revolutions? I was just loving it. I mean, I had a really good time watching that movie. The trilogy is just a really good fun time for me. Even the Jesus weird stuff with Keanu at the end of the third film, I can overlook for something that I really think is a really um, surreal, metaphysical, sort of ethereal movie that really gets you thinking about our reality. And yeah, I was hyped for Resurrections.
yeah, no, for sure. I love the Matrix. Do you know what? I used to love the whole trilogy when I was younger and I
Hmm.
first experienced the films and I watched them over and over again. I thought they were amazing, all three of them.
Yeah.
The subsequent video games, I was all over it. Like,
Oh,
you
did you have the
know,
PS2 game?
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
me
The
too.
ones,
Me too.
and it was great. You could run on walls and do flips and,
Yes.
the bullet time. But maybe, maybe that's what I liked more as a kid, than growing up and realizing there's a lot more to the Matrix. Maybe
Hmm.
they're poking
Hmm.
fun at people who didn't come to that realization in the Resurrections film. But for me, the first Matrix film is an absolute masterpiece. uh I actually got a chance to watch it on the big screen, because me and Chris were not old enough to watch it on the big screen when it first came out.
Yeah.
Got a chance to watch it on the big screen at university, so that
Hmm.
year's 9 grand was well spent. uh, and it
The
was
the first Matrix movie was the first movie I was ever scared of.
oh,
I was
interesting.
scared of it. My uncle, he used to babysit me, used to tease me with the first Matrix movie because it scared the living shit out of me. Um, Particularly the moment where Neo is held down and that nano spider thing that goes in his belly button.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
used to like I was like 4 or 5 years old, and my uncle was like he literally locked the room and forced me to watch it. I'm
Oh
like,
my
I'm
god.
absolutely going. I had nightmares about that scene for like for forever, for months. I used to be scared whenever my uncle Nigel came into the room. I used to run away because I thought he was going to pin me down and make me
Oh
watch
my
the movie.
god.
Yeah, it took me a while to warm up to the Matrix. And when I rewatched it recently, I was just like, I said to Lauren, it's like it just reopened a whole can of worms again for me.
Oh my god. Your childhood trauma with Uncle
Uncle
Nigel.
Nigel,
Shout out to Uncle
he's
Nigel.
definitely not listening to this. I haven't spoken to him in probably about 10 years.
Oh, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, wow, that's interesting. I think I was a lot older than you when I watched it. I must have been between 10
It
and
was at
12,
that period.
you
Nigel
know?
was about 20, and it was at that period where it just came out on VHS. It taken the world by storm, and everybody had seen it. It
Yeah.
was like whenever I was a kid, everybody was renting Scream on VHS and trying to scare their little brothers or sisters with it. It was that sort of time period. The late 90s was a little bit weird for that.
I do remember uh probably, 6, 7, you know, being around a friend's house and them chucking on Starship Troopers. I mean, really not
Wait, how
figuring
old?
out, you know, uh 5, 6
Starship
maybe?
Troopers at 5 or 6. That makes no sense. Who's watching? What 5 or 6 year old is engaging with Starship Troopers? I mean, most of the movie is dialogue.
Well, my friends were older. Do you know? I'm gonna say 7, 8. I'm gonna say 7, 8. Just bring it up a little bit. Now that I'm thinking about it, 7, 8. Not that makes it
Okay,
any better.
okay,
That was probably one of the first films that it was like an adult film that kind of
okay.
freaked me out a bit. We definitely didn't watch
I
it
mean, the
all.
bug scenes and like
Um,
there's the infamous sex scene, but like the bug scenes are like 20 minutes the whole movie. The rest of it's kind of just like blocky dialogue, which in context I really love. But I'm why 6 or 7 year olds watching that? I'm struggling to see you at 7 years old
do
sitting
you
in
know?
front of this.
I watched it. Do you know? I
Uh
watched
huh.
it back recently, and I'm pretty sure we skipped to the bit. Um, we skip to the bit where they're on
Right.
the alien planet, so you're
Yeah.
seeing more of just
Yeah.
the gore and the blood. Like like I do
Yes.
not remember. Like I watched it recently, I did not remember a single thing apart from when they
Mhm.
get to the planet, the infamous
Yeah.
sex scene, and some of the gore and the fighting, and you just think, yeah, my older friends definitely, scarred me
It
for a
was one
minute
of
with
those
that one.
movies my dad, every time it came on TV, my dad would just put on and he'd watch it. And every
It's
time I came
so
into it,
good.
it was always on the planet. So I just naturally thought that's how the movie began.
It's so good, and it's got so much
Hmm.
to it. You're right. Like, there's so much before coming to that planet. Yeah, we should do a deep dive on
Oh,
Paul Verhoeven because
absolutely.
his filmography is
We've got to do a Benedetta episode.
yeah. When is that coming out in the UK? Is it March? I feel
Yeah,
like it's March.
I gotta double check that one. I don't think it has been released over here. I mean, I played in America about
No.
in the States about 2 months ago. But yeah,
Yeah, they had it at the end of
yeah, I'm
2021, didn't they?
very keen to watch that.
Yeah, which means it's kind of lost a bit of steam, but clearly, hopefully it'll pick back up again for the UK stuff because yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
I
really
think
want to
people are
watch
just
that.
really excited to see Verhoeven kind of doing, going back to his sort of roots again. I mean, the guy's like in his 80s now, and like I don't know how much more we're gonna get into him, but I think he seems to be getting in back into the mode. So as many Verhoeven movies as possible, please.
Yeah, it's kind of like trashy, fun, but also, wait,
I,
is this good? This is good. This is really good. That's,
the,
that's how I feel during every single one of his films.
I don't think that he's ever trashy by accident. It's completely by design. He's a provocateur.
Oh yeah,
He's a provocateur.
oh yeah,
He
100%.
loves to throw weird things in there just to because he thinks it's funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tell he's
Hmm.
having fun with the audience.
But a
you
man
know.
who's deeply interested in religion, which is sort of most of
Mm,
his work is kind of emulates that, but he's got a specific interest with Jesus. I think he's even written a book on Jesus Christ.
that's interesting. That's really interesting. Actually, there's a few filmmakers kind of who have taken religious aspects into their
Hmm.
work. Obviously, Martin Scorsese, uh, Kevin Smith, of all people.
Yeah, yeah.
Inspiration for the podcast. But we were talking
Yes,
about the Matrix. We've gone on to a
you know what?
bit of a
We
tangent here. Where were we? Is the Matrix good,
The
Chris?
Matrix
Is the
Resurrections
Matrix
isn't
good?
good. It's great. It's great. It's great. Um, explain to
Explain
you
to me why.
why. Well, before I explain to you why, it's important to contextualize yourself. The movie is completely dependent on context, which isn't a bad thing. It's what you bring. It's what you bring to it. If you watch The Matrix back in 1999 and subsequently in the early 2000s for the sequels, and you're coming back into this one, you're gonna hit it. You're gonna hit it because you probably remember it for being an action spectacular. And that's probably the weakest point of the Resurrections. I think I can agree with that. That the action, Lana isn't probably the best at directing it, or I don't even know if she's really interested in making it that look that great. The movie is being made with a certain reluctance. She was sort of forced into making it by Warner Brothers. I think um, the Agent Smith character reinforced that in the movie by pretty much vocalizing that Warner Brothers is forcing us.
Well, yeah, they
Yes.
full on call out Warner Brothers in the film produced by Warner Brothers. It's quite a fun moment. Yeah, it's they
Hmm.
clearly gave
Hmm.
over a lot of creative control, which is good because obviously Lana Wachowski should get
Yeah.
as all the creative control because it's her baby. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like I loved that they did that, but also it was that kind of stuff at the start, which maybe took me out a little bit. I think
With the
for
Morpheus
me,
stuff.
it was more the Morpheus stuff, or just there was
Hmm.
no mystery. There was no, you were thrown into the
Hmm.
film and you were told, the Matrix is real. Now, obviously, we've got the three previous films to prove that. But in the film, they make it out as if the last three films were video
Which I
games.
think is a pretty ingenious idea, really.
If it's a brilliant idea, it's a brilliant idea, but not at one point does the audience believe that this could be the case. I would have loved it if maybe, just maybe, that first half an hour of the film, you were left thinking like, are they are they gonna are they gonna make us think that the Matrix was just video games? Are they gonna make us think that maybe the past three films are redundant and this is a new thing? And I thought that would have been bold if they had done that. But also,
That's interesting. I didn't think about
they
that
didn't.
before.
So there's, the first half an hour of the film, you're not in Neo's mind. You are just you're just there, knowing that he's got, that his inkling of thought that there's more to this world is true because you've already seen it. Obviously the three films prove that, but
I think the thing that really works is that first initial meeting with Neo and Trinity when they meet in the cafe. And there is something that really just like
yeah.
it's really hard, like really hard hitting and powerful about the moment where they cross eyes and they shake hands. And I think it's just the passage of time, the baggage they bring. Really, there's a lot of heft in that moment, and I think that kind of was enough for me to really get on board. Whereas, suppose the Neo and Trinity plot line in the first three films, probably the weakest aspect. I don't know if you agree, was probably the weakest aspect of those movies, but kind of became the strongest element surprisingly in this movie, which is kind of a really big turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I would go as far to say that it was the
It was
weakest
tacked on.
aspect
It
of
was
those
tacked on.
films. However, it was something where films of those times had to have a relationship element. Um, but I don't think it was particularly done bad. I mean, the second film reinforces that. He puts the Matrix, not the Matrix. What's the place?
Zion, yeah.
Zion, puts Zion at risk to save Trinity. So that the emotional connection they have between them has always been a strong thing in the films. So I wouldn't go as far to say that it was tacked on, but I would say it is definitely the strongest part of this film, and clearly
Hmm.
the only one of the main reasons that Lana wanted to go back and
Hmm.
do this film was to kind of reinforce that. I think their relationship is the building blocks of the film.
It's interesting what you said that about Lana. I think the last 10 years, I think Cloud Atlas onwards, when we're thinking about Jupiter Ascending, her movies, the Wachowski's movies have become a lot more on the nose about what they're about. They're really broad. They're really smacking you over the head. True love conquers all.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you're either on board with that sentiment or you're not. I certainly am. I really like the broad strokes. Maybe that wasn't as prevalent in their first movie, like their first couple of movies, like The Matrix. But yeah, it's a preference thing. I'm not upset with anybody who dislikes The Matrix Resurrections. I'm just saying it really worked for me, and I think it's really an interesting, unique movie that we probably will never get again.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what? I don't hate it. I don't love it.
Mhm.
I can see why people would hate it, and I can see why people would love it. I'm very in the middle. Uh, I liked it, didn't love it. I wish,
Mhm.
I wish I did, but there's something stopping me, and I feel like maybe it's how it too much ends on a similar note to the original Matrix,
Yeah.
and it left me thinking like, why,
What
why
paint the
did you
skies
want to
with
tell this
rainbows?
story? And yeah,
Come
yeah,
on. I
and
mean, Neo and Trinity flying off into the sunset together was all I needed.
yeah, but what about that? What, what was the story that after all this time we went back to the Matrix? I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether we needed a new one. I was happy to see a new one, but I didn't leave the cinema thinking like, yeah, we really needed that to round off the series.
I just appreciate that we got something pretty unique.
All right, Chris, I think we should call it a day there on our first ever podcast episode.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure people are probably relieved to hear that by now.
If you've joined us here on our first episode, then thank you very much. I hope we can polish this further and evolve this. And I think the idea is that we want to be like honest and open with everybody who listens and just say, look, you are at the start of this with us. Come on the journey with us. Help us out. Give some feedback and let us know what you think. Like this is new to us, and we're happy to play
Yeah,
around. We're not stuck with any particular format, any particular way of doing things. But I've had fun. I've had fun this night. I've had fun tonight.
it's great. Yeah, we will find our way. I think we are both fairly committed to looking at this on a scope of few months down the line, I think we'll still be doing this. So hopefully by that point, we'll have a little bit better of an idea of what we're doing and a little bit more refinement on that part.
Definitely, definitely, and I think it'll be good to give ourselves like a goal for the next
Absolutely.
podcast. What are we going to talk about? And I think the Oscar
Yes.
nominations have just come out, and I've got a bit of catching up to do. And I think it'd be good
Hmm.
just to talk about some of those. Yeah, is it silly to talk about the Oscars? They're a Ponce Award ceremony for film
I like
people.
the Oscars are fun.
Um,
I mean, they're fun. You take them at face value. It's fun.
yeah, and I think it'd be a good jumping point to hit some of the you know
Hmm.
the more
Hmm.
talked about films of
Yeah.
the last.
Strong. I mean, strong year. 2021 was pretty good.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, we'll talk about it next
Looking
episode,
forward to
but probably the first time the nominations came out, and I didn't
it.
face palm and be like,
Well,
oh, really?
there's a couple of
That's your
snubs.
list?
I'm looking forward to mentioning in the next episode. We'll
Yeah,
see if you agree.
but yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about that next week. and our feelings on them. But yeah, I think that's it for tonight, and thank you for joining us and listening to us.
Yeah.
Have a good movie watching week, everyone.
Once again, I'm Kris.
And I'm Alex.
And thank you for listening to The Film Angle.